Week 8 of the fantasy football season kicks off tonight on Thursday Night Football, and this is the week that many are dubbing, many are saying that this is the bye-pocalypse. The Lions, the Raiders, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Jaguars are all on bye. So we are going to, in today's video, break down every single matchup from tonight all the way up until Monday Night Football, and I will help you set your lineup at the tight end position, telling you whether you should start or sit the tight ends in all these games, as well as where I believe they'll finish by the end of the week. If you are new to the channel, and you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Like it owes you some money. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin with Thursday Night Football. The cold like Minnesota Vikings going up against the Los Angeles Superchargers on Thursday Night Football. TJ Hawkinson is basically at this point in the season holding your fantasy football team hostage. He is a big enough of a name at the tight end position and is a solid player, but with how this offense functions, he just can't be ranked as a top 12 option. He is a good enough player to start, as the tight end position kind of really just feels like at this point you're spinning a wheel and just hoping it lands in the right spot. Last week, he was 6 of 9 for 43 yards up against the Eagles. He should be good enough to start as like a fringe tight end to break glass in case of emergency option, but don't expect much more than that in the 26th best matchup for tight ends in the tight end 14 to 18 range. Aaron Gadsden II has been a top 12 tight end now in back-to-back weeks, 75+% of the snaps in back-to-back games with 8+ targets in both of those games. 7 receptions on 9 targets for 164 yards and a touchdown as the tight end one last week up against the Colts. We should not expect a game like this to happen again. Obviously, a guy getting over 150+ yards and a touchdown as a tight end seems very improbable to repeat, especially with a guy like Gadsden. But if the volume is going to continue to go his way like I would project, I get there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, right? They've got Keenan, they have Ladd, they have Quentin Johnston. But in this scenario, you have to follow the hot streak that he's on. In the 22nd best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis, I got him as a top 8 tight end option. Now we move to the Sunday slate of games with the Miami Dolphins at the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts has been pretty up and down this season so far. 3 games inside the top 12. The other games have not been so hot. Last week was one of the good games with 7 receptions on 10 targets for 62 yards as the tight end 12 up against the 49ers, facing the Dolphins defense that can't stop a fucking nosebleed. In the 10th best matchup for tight ends, Pitts is definitely a low-end tight end number 1. With Darren Waller now on the IR, we should see a tight end by committee, a tight end rotation for the Miami Dolphins. I know Waller looked great, so many people might think that, hey, whoever fills in might be worthwhile, but that really just is not the case at all. As a Dolphins fan, I watch all these games prior to Darren Waller. The tight ends were just useless, and I think that will be the case post Darren Waller. Hopefully he can return, but honestly, who really knows? He's on the IR. I don't think so, especially considering he's an unk. So now we move to the New York Jumbo Jets at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Noah Fant found the end zone last week in a matchup up against the Steelers where every single tight end ended up finding the end zone for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Fant scored for the Bengals. It was like National Tight End Day a week early. 4 receptions on 4 targets for 44 yards. With Gesicki out, we should see more Fant, but can't guarantee he gets more than like 4 targets with Flacco forcing the rock to Jamar Chase. He's a clear sit, in my opinion. Mason Taylor has been on the struggle bus over the last 2 weeks due to the quarterback play being downright diabolically bad. I am talking about quarterback play that is genuinely shocking to watch at the NFL level. It's like throwing on a D1 college football game, and it's like some random team, the school of the blind and the deaf, going up against fucking Ohio State where they beat them 100-0, right? That is the level of quarterback play we are seeing out of the Jets. 3 receptions on 5 targets for 31 yards up against the Panthers. The matchup here is the best one for tight ends on a per game basis. So while I am incredibly nervous about Taylor due to how this offense is functioning as a whole, the matchup is too juicy to rank him outside the top 10. Again, we just saw Freiermuth, Janu Smith, as well as Darnell Washington all light the lamp last week up against them. Now we move to the Cleveland Browns going up against the New England Patriots in Foxborough. With how much Dylan Gabriel loves tight ends, we are going going to see a lot of volume go the way of Fannin and Njoku weekly when they are healthy. Last week, Fannin struggled without Njoku, but that was mainly due to the fact that the weather was bad. The Browns ran all over the Dolphins, and thus Fannin wasn't needed as much. This week, up against the Patriots, Fannin will have a much bigger piece of the pie in this offense. In the 14th best matchup for tight ends on a per-game basis, I got him as a low-end tight end one, assuming Njoku plays. If Njoku does end up missing, you would move him up just a little bit. If Njoku gets the nod to play after missing last week and being limited on Wednesday with the knee injury, I would be fine playing him in the fringe tight end 2 range. Knowing he will not be 100% definitely does hurt his projection, but knowing how much Gabriel just loves tossing the pigskin to the tight ends on the team does make me feel good enough about Njoku as a low-end start. Hunter Henry has been down astronomical over the last 3 weeks. His targets have been dipping, and his safety rating right now would be at a 0. The offense of the Patriots is a certified wagon, and I think even up against a stout Browns defense, we could see the Patriots run up the score. This is the 19th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. At this point, trusting Hunter Henry would be something that would be foolish to do with 3 straight games outside the top 20. So he is a low end fringe tight end 2 start. If you have to start him, I get it, right? The guy is talented, but it does feel gross. Next up, we move to a NFC beast matchup in the NFC East, the New York Football Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Theo Johnson is a touchdown or bust type of play. His targets bounce up and down, and even with that being the case, though, he is a guy that lives in the end zone. So if he does score this week, you will be happy. Last time out up against the Eagles in week 6, he was silent like the night the fat man climbs down your chimney. 2 receptions on 4 targets for 27 yards. He did bounce back last week in that horrifying loss up against the Denver Broncos as the tight end 9 with 3 receptions on 7 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown. The Eagles matchup is brutal for tight ends, so you're going to need him to score for it to pay off. So he's in that fringe tight end 2 start range, in the tight end 16 to 18 range. Dallas Goedert's hot streak came to a sad end last week up against the Vikings with just 3 targets for 3 receptions for 18 yards. Last time he played up against the Giants, he was the tight end 1 with 9 receptions on 11 targets for 110 yards and a touchdown. Prior to last week, he scored 5 touchdowns over the prior 4 games with a touchdown in each game. So you simply can't sit Goddard with how well he has been playing and with how I could definitely see this being a repeat of what happened last time up against the Giants. So I think this should be a higher scoring game. You got to rock with Dallas Goedert as a top 6 option. Next up, we move to the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills at the Carolina Panthers. Now, Dalton Kincaid was limited in practice yesterday with the oblique injury. I wouldn't lock him into play or miss at this point. I would just wait for more practice reports to come on Thursday and Friday before I make a true decision. If he does play, you are going to want him in your lineup as a top 6 option. It has been proven this season that Josh Allen and this offense as a whole, the coaching staff, really wants to get the tight ends heavily involved. And I understand that Dalton Kincaid isn't the prototypical tight end 1, right? He's not a guy that's seeing 80+% of the snaps. I would honestly be shocked if he seed more than 60% of the snaps, but he has still scored a touchdown in 3 of 5 games played. And in the 5th best matchup for tight ends up against the Panthers, you gotta love Kincaid here as a top 8 option. Jatavion Sanders returned last week from his ankle injury that held him out the prior 3 games last week up against the Jets in MetLife. He was out-targeted by rookie tight end Mitchell Evans. This may end up turning into a 3-headed tight end room of death. No need to roster Jatavion, Colonel Sanders, Tommy, make that ass tremble, or Mitchell Evans at this point in the season. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears at the Baltimore Ravens. Even if Cole Kmet is out with the back injury, I just can't do it with Colston Loveland. Maybe this is the coming out party, and maybe this is the game where the dude finally does something in the 9th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis in what is expected to be the 2nd highest scoring game of the week. So the potential is there. But, and there's a big but, shout out to Angela White, at the end of the day, I do not trust him, especially considering Rome Odunze has been on the struggle bus. I think you are going to see a healthy dosage of Rome in this game. And I would prefer just to leave Colston on the waivers. If you have to start him, though, I get it. He is close to being a start for me. For Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely outsnapped Andrews in week 6 prior to the bye. Mark Andrews has been struggling all season long, and while I think that Lamar Jackson can be the savior here for Mark Andrews, he could revive him a little bit. With Isaiah Likely outsnapping him prior to the bye, I would prefer to just leave him on my bench and kind of just see what happens before starting him in the 15th best matchup for tight ends. I would prefer to leave him on my bench. Again, there are a million teams on bye this week. So if you're like, Nick, I have to play Mark Andrews, I'm not going to sit here and berate you for having to play him. I think he's close to being a start for me. But ultimately, if I had the opportunity to sit him, I would. Then we move to the San Francisco 49ers at the Houston Texans. Before we break down this game at the tight end position, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog, sign up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get a free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds as well. As you play $5 in the pick'em, you'll get an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. How does the pick'em work? You might ask. It's incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players. They're higher or they're lower. If those picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but all of the picks have to hit. Make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, George Kittle returned last week. His triumphant return after missing every single game after getting injured in week 1. And he returned to shove a foot up your candy ass, jabroni, like his name was The Rock. 0 receptions on 2 targets with 81% of the snaps up against the Falcons in prime time. I get his return game was awful, but at the end of the day, you can't worry, as the Falcons are the worst matchup for tight ends this season. I will just erase this game from my brain, erase it from the memory hold it, don't worry about it. Kittle is a must-start top 4 option this week. Seems like Christian Kirk and Nico Collins will be out, meaning that you are going to see a metric fuck ton of Dalton Schultz. 6+ targets now in 4 straight weeks. Last week up against Seattle on the second Monday Night Football game, he was 9 of 10 for 98 yards as the tight end 5. The 49ers are the 20th best matchup for tight ends and just saw a healthy dosage of Kyle Pitts, so you should feel good about Schultz as a high-end tight end too. Now we move to the 4 p.m. slate on Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. With Mike Evans out of the picture, Cade Otton should continue to see more involvement in this offense. Chris Godwin is also out yet again, so I think you should continue to see the ball go the way of Cade Otton. Tight end 11 last week with 7 receptions on 9 targets for 65 yards. I expect Baker to play much better than he did last week, so Otton is a nice high-end tight end to start in the 16th best matchup for tight ends. For Juwan Johnson, simply put, I do not trust Spencer Rattler enough to mark Johnson as a start after one good game as the tight end 13 last week with 5 receptions on 7 targets for 79 yards up against the Bears, especially when you consider the fact that he was outside the top 25 at tight end for 3 straight games before that. So I get, on paper, this is a mid-range matchup, and, Juwan Johnson's a talented player. I'm not going to argue with you about that. I think Juwan Johnson's very talented, but on the team he's on, in the situation he's in, with so many bad games prior to the tight end 13 last week, I expect his targets to dip down to the 3 to 5 mark again, and for him to be on the struggle bus. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the Denver Broncos. Now, Jake Ferguson has been balling like Kobe back in 05. 6 straight top 10 showings with 5 of 7 games inside of the top 5. Even with CeeDee Lamb back in the fold, Jake Ferguson had the Commanders defense in a fucking body bag. 7 receptions on 7 targets for 29 yards and not 1, but 2 touchdowns in that game. 6 touchdowns over the last 4 games facing the Broncos this week in what should be the highest scoring game of the week and what is expected to be that in the 21st best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. I love Fergalicious as a top 2 tight end this week. Evan Ingram continues to just be mid. He continues to just be okay. I don't think anyone is sitting there this week with Evan Ingram in their lineup, or just in general, weekly, and feeling like they're super excited for Evan Ingram to produce at a very high level. But he has been fine if you have started him. 9+ points in 3 straight games, and was the tight end 19 in back-to-back games. 5 receptions on 8 targets last week up against the G-Men for 42 yards in the 11th best matchup for tight ends on a per-game basis. I feel good about him cracking the top 18. Again, I would be a little bit shocked if he finished inside the top 5. I think he has the skill to do so. I'm just not sure the Denver Broncos offense is kind of centered around getting him the ball that many times, so he's just a fringe tight end 2 type of start. Now we got the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Chig Okonkwo is a solid tight end, and I say this every single week, and I'm going to regurgitate it again. If you use the Claw from Toy Story and picked this man up and fucking threw him to a different team, we would be excited about Chig because of his skill set. But with the tight ends offense on limp dick mode, he is unstartable. Tyler Warren has been as consistent as it gets this season, all but one game inside of the top 11, 3 straight games with a touchdown, and with the Colts offense being a certified wagon, shout out to the Oregon Trail, Tyler Warren is going to stay in the flame. Tight end 7 last week in LA up against the Superchargers with 4 receptions on 5 targets for 69 yards. Very nice, I like, and a touchdown. The Titans are not an ideal matchup for tight ends as they allow the 25th most points on a per game basis to tight ends, but at the end of the day, you aren't sitting Tyler Warren because it's a rough matchup. He is matchup proof, still a must start top 3 option. Now we move to, cause you waited all day for Sunday night, the Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Aaron Rodgers revenge game. The Packers have not beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh since 1970. Long time, but I think they've only had like 8 matchups since then, so those kind of stats sound crazy, like, holy fuck, how have the Packers not beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh in that many years? Well, it's because they've only played 8 times there, but still, solid win record for the Steelers at home up against the Green Bay Packers. Tucker Kraft Mac and Cheese is a must-start tight end every single week. Kraft has scored in back-to-back games and has 4 touchdowns over the 6-game season. Last week, he was 5 of 10 for 58 yards and a score in Arizona. We just saw the Steelers defense get posterized by Noah Fant last week, like what JSN did to that ref on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you guys were watching that game because it was so late if you are on the East Coast, but JSN scored a touchdown, jumped up, slammed the ball, Jimmy Graham style, through the uprights and was hanging there, and the ref was just looking at him like he got postered in the NBA. So in the third best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis, Tucker Kraft is a must start top 3 option at the tight end position. Jonnu Smith found the end zone against the Bengals last week in Cincinnati, as did every single fucking tight end in this offense. Again, I said it earlier, it was like National Tight End Day a week early. Freiermuth scored 2, Smith scored 1, and Darnell Washington got 1 as well. I am sure we all saw that coming, as no one said anything before the game, right? They watched the tight end start sit video, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll sit Jonnu, we'll sit Freiermuth, we'll sit Noah Fant, right? But then after the game, there's people in the comments, Nick, you're a fucking idiot. You should have started Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu. How could you possibly have listed them as a sit? After like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of, if you threw these guys in your lineups, they were just fucking you over, then magically they have a good game, and it's my fault that I didn't see it coming, right? A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, and even in the second best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis, I am not touching these Steelers tight ends with a 10-foot pole. Final game here, the left heads up. Who are we? The Commanders at the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Zach Ertz has been significantly better with Jaden Stormy Daniels compared to with Marcus Mariota. It is not impossible for Ertz to have a good game with Mariota under center, as Ertz is a key piece in the cog of this Commanders offense, but I'm feeling more nervous than I would if Jaden Daniels was under center. Matched out with the fact that Terry McLaurin seems like he's going to be back, that Deebo Samuel seems like he's going to be back, and with the fact that the Chiefs matchup is tough for tight ends on a per game basis, Ertz is not a tight end 1. He's in the tight end 2 range, high end tight end 2, because I think he's talented. But again, I am definitely worried about things without Jaden Daniels. Final guy to discuss in today's video is going to be Travis Kelce, the man with the huge cock, allegedly. With the return of Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce was much more on the struggle bus. Now, it is important to note that the offense benched the starters inside of the third quarter because they jumped off the top rope and slammed the Las Vegas Raiders through a table. Kelce was 3 of 3 for 54. I think things will bounce back to normal here. 13th best matchup for tight ends. I got Kelce as a mid-range tight end number 1. I think had he have played the whole game with Mahomes and they don't bench everyone in the end of the third quarter, then maybe things go a little bit different for Mr. Kelce last week. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you didn't enjoy today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Please make sure you leave a like on today's video, whether you are new to the channel or not. It helps me out a ton. Check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't seen them already. Running back rankings coming out later, and that will be live streaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, breaking down all your start-sit decisions for Thursday Night Football and the rest of the week. Love you guys so much. Hope you have a great one. As always, good boy!